Chris would be able to put him in perspective as to where he is, what is it he's doing. Welcome to our viewers on GBN's Channel 7, Channel 11, those of you that's on Channel 20 via cable, those of you via Facebook or Facebook feed, and via YouTube. Chris, time is of essence. I heard a story. I thought it was a breaking news. There is this man, he's called Patient Zero. We're attempting to find him. We've heard a lot about him, but I understand while you have folks like Dr. Martin and Dr. Charles that have been leading the charge, you have your own story on Patient Zero. Welcome to the program. Tell us about him.
Good morning, Joseph, and good morning, and big up to GBN. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about the new theatrical production. And Patient Zero is a story of a family that goes on their dream cruise vacation. And while they're out there on the ocean, the world has changed. The world has become engulfed by a global pandemic. And so when they get back to their home, they discover that the entire situation has become dramatically transformed.
Right.
They have to cope with a new and very unsettling reality.
Set the stage for us. How exactly? I mean, it is almost having to adapt overnight.
Exactly. And it is one, and this is a relatable story for many people globally, not just Grenada. The spread of the awareness about the COVID pandemic came very quickly, and it has happened, in fact, that people who were innocent and ignorant found themselves facing lockdown with very little notice. And in this particular case, it was not simply lockdown.
Right.
It was a new level of, it introduced a new kind of anxiety into their life, uncertainty about the future, and then the very painful and worrisome realization that one of them could have returned with the COVID-19 virus from the cruise. So that is, that is the situation that they face with. In the story.
We've seen the thrillers on television, and it's one of the things you said. What is good about this theatrical production? It is something that each and every one of us, we are quite open to. We live in it right now. You had other productions that people have to throw back their mind to a historical landscape. This one you have to do you don't have to do any throwbacks. There's some elements of the COVID-19 period that has been brought to the fore. And of course, it will be good to see how it plays out on stage. The husband having to deal with the frustration of COVID-19. Then, of course, that coupled with the death of his father, and the wife trying to understand, like, seriously, this is in your life, but all he's talking about is this, and he's complaining about all it always lockdown. So really, really strong messages coming through.
Yes, and the characters, people live in their separate reality. You mentioned the husband. He's he's a modern lawyer with modern ideas about how we should live and how we should make money. And so he has a real problem with the lockdown. And he sees it in the context of the undermining his constitutional rights and freedoms. And his wife is different. She is, and that character of the husband is played by Robert White, who, as you know, needs no introduction to theater in Grenada.
Right.
And in fact, that character, the husband is played by Richard Beadle. Let me just correct that. Richard Beadle is a Jamaican.
You almost got me confused, so I was like, okay, let me make sure. Rob, I'm like, okay, but I said it was best.
Sorry, let me just correct that. Richard Beadle is the husband.
Right.
And Richard is a Jamaican who has been living in Grenada for some time.
Yes.
He's a man who is known for his spiritual groundings. He's actually a pastor. And he comes to us with a lot of acting experience. So he's technically sung, and he really is good. But I mentioned Robert, and I said Robert needed no introduction. Robert is actually the father of the character that Richard is playing.
He's got the whole world in his hands.
Yes, Robert is a character called Basil. Basil is a name that people don't call the children Basil nowadays, right? But Robert is Basil, and Basil is a character, right? Basil is salt of the earth, sense of humor, homespun wisdom,
right,
and a very sharp tongue, and that is Basil. That's the old man in the story, and he brings a lot of life to the story. So there are these characters. There's the Victoria, the wife of the main character, and the Victoria is played by Dale Devine. Dale used to work in the radio once.
Yes.
So even then, you could have seen her capabilities
and you
for
could
drama.
safely say that Dale is just a delightful character just by nature.
Yes. And she, in that story, she is a sociologist, and she is the spiritual anchor of the family. She's a woman with her feet firmly planted on the ground. So she is in contrast to the main character, which is played by Richard Beadle. And incidentally, Richard Beadle's character is called Franklin. So the only other character I want to mention is the young and impressionable Lulu, the one who is seen singing with the old man. He's got the whole world in his hand.
Right.
He is actually a child in the story, 10 years old, impressionable and lovely little child. So, and she has a special connection with her grandfather, Basil. So if he gets sick, and if he's on the verge of dying, how does she deal with that? Those kind of things. So those are the characters in the story. And then we have a doctor. Dr. Thomas. And, it's not any specific reference to any particular Dr. Thomas, but, it's a good name for a doctor in Grenada, because we have had some good Dr. Thomases.
Correct.
And this doctor is played by Jude Modeste. Jude Modeste is a young and very talented theater practitioner. So we have a small cast, but an extremely talented cast of actors.
Which, Chris, there are some people that they always find the naysayers. While I've spoken to people that are saying, whoa, finally something to look forward to, there are those that they would say, and I want you to tell us as to why they need to connect with this piece of theatrical showpiece. Well, it's COVID, all of us lived through it. I don't need to go sit down and watch people talk and tell stories about it. It is ever present with us. But what would you say?
Well, one of the things that theater does, it's a mirror of society, but it's not just a simple matter of reflecting reality, but it offers interpretations, it offers lessons, it raises questions. It's a teaching experience, and in this particular case, we are talking about edutainment, education and entertainment happening simultaneously. Apart from the story of the play itself, the main thread, the main plot, the story in the play, there are other layers of information and other story arcs. With this whole pandemic has introduced a whole new lexicon, a whole new vocabulary into Grenadian speak, and a global lexicon. And many of us did not know, for example, the difference between a pandemic and an epidemic. Many of us did not understand the concept of contact tracing and community spread.
Right.
And what's an asymptomatic carrier of the virus. So there is public health education. And I know that the public health authorities have done a creditable job in managing the pandemic, and big up to them for that. And that they have to be recognized for that.
True, but yes.
But we are not out of the woods. And there are lessons that have to be learned. Some people are still not prepared to wear masks when they are in intimate contact with other human beings.
Right.
So the play, even the very manner in which the play will be staged, people will be asked to come in wearing their masks. We'll take names when they enter so as to ensure contact tracing. There'll be socially distanced seating. We give people the assurance that we are going to work in accordance with the protocols laid out by the public health authorities of Grenada. because we want to help in public education. So it's not just a story entertaining people. It's not just a story about a relatable kind of situation where a family comes back from a cruise probably with a virus and what it means for the dynamics of the family and so on, but it is also public health education.
While we're on the issue of public health education and your conformity to those established protocols, how would families be treated? Because it would be important for us to get that message out there so that people don't come when they get there, that they're guessing. Because most people would assume if I come with husband, wife, my 2 kids, would they be allowed to sit together, or does the protocol dictate that you following? Does it dictate otherwise?
Well, here's the thing. The chairs are laid out in a certain manner, and there's a distance of a certain number of feet in between the chairs. So we cannot, in any arbitrary manner, keep rearranging the chairs in the hall. So people, if a family of 5 comes in, they might be able to be seated in a general area, but we cannot remove the chairs because this introduces anarchy. So the seats are where they are, but they are spaced out. And so people will find it, very workable and doable, the way we have laid it out.
And I specifically asked you that based on the conversation that we had, and I didn't want for folks when they get, because you know how certain we can be, especially when it comes to our intimate ones. We go to an event and all of a sudden we start to react otherwise to it. So at least you letting persons know from the onset, this is the protocol that is in place.
Yes.
Chris, let's talk about because time is of essence. When do we get the first public airing of this one?
What do you mean? By a public airing?
No. I'm talking about their performance. Give us the dates. I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah. And like videotaping it and making it available for TV and so on.
Well, no, I'm not talking about. Maybe I use the wrong term. So because you probably hear airing and you're thinking TV.
Yes. Yeah.
The first episode.
Oh, the staging.
The staging. When would that be?
The 7th of November at the Trade Center. So that's in a couple of weeks' time. We are opening on Saturday, the 7th of November at 8 o'clock at the Grenada Trade Center. And the second performance is on Sunday, the 8th of November at the same venue. And on the following weekend, we are actually having 2 shows, Saturday and Sunday. Typically when we do these shows, we try to cater for an audience of 800 plus people. Unfortunately, in this particular case, because of the social distance seating, we can only accommodate 300 people or so in the hall.
Right.
And therefore, we are encouraging people who want to see the production to get their tickets now, because seating is limited. And it breaks my heart when I have to turn away a patron, especially people who have been coming to see and supporting what we have been doing for the last 2 or 3 decades. So that's the scenario as regards the times for staging. And just to remind people that, the seating is limited.
And I guess the management of this entire process would be critical to you in terms of persons. It would be essential that they purchase the tickets in advance, so at least you wouldn't have a case whereby you have persons buying tickets for, let's say, the first staging, and then they get there and realizing, wow, capacity is an issue.
Well, if you have a ticket, you will get in. I give people the assurance, because we printed a limited number of tickets.
Okay.
And that was carefully correlated to the number of seats available.
Okay.
So we assure anyone who has bought a ticket that they will get in.
We're looking at the clock on the wall, 12 minutes onto the hour. Chris, again, quite an impactful piece, and that's my anticipation of it. The husband, wife, and again, how difficult was it for you to get this array, this complexity of different actors? The husband, the educated man who figured this is his rights. The wife, more methodical, trying to reason things out. The grandfather, living life, que sera, laughable. And then you have the granddaughter and the other characters. How much of a challenge is it for you because this one is written by you and produced by
It's directed by Neela Etienne, and I wanted to say something about Neela in the production process. Neela is a professional. She has a master's in theater arts.
Yes.
And she's a fantastic actress. And this is her first opportunity to direct a full-length play. But I'm so confident in her ability. I know I've been sitting and looking at how she has been conducting the rehearsals. She has a very fine method, a very effective method of bringing out the best in the actors. And when the script was written, she was one of the first persons I shared it with because of my respect for her ability. And we have workshopped, in a sense, the script. We have read it via Zoom because we couldn't meet at the time when it was written in April. And I have received the criticisms, a lot of the helpful suggestions from people like Neela, but other members of the cast, Mike Sherman, right, who's a Canadian based in Grenada. He's the stage manager of the production, and he has been very helpful also in very critical. And Mike is very, he has a great method of analyzing and criticizing material and so on. So I benefited from Mike's analysis also, but the other members of the cast. So it took us months of discussion to take it to the point where it is now as a script. But it's not a perfect script. We always, a friend of mine, Owen Bully, a Dominican playwright, said to me, Chris, we're always struggling, playwrights, to write the perfect script. So it's a work in progress. And even after it's staged, there still will be improvements or areas for improvement and so on. So that's where we are. It's in a sense a collective effort with good directing, and we expect it to be well appreciated by our audiences.
I'm going to give you 30 seconds, Chris, to remind Grenada, look into the camera, remind Grenadians where they need to be on November the 7th and why they need to be there.
Well, this look into the camera thing seems to be popular these days. I think Joe Biden, another Joe like you, right? He been looking at the camera a lot until last night. I think Donald Trump even looking at the camera a few times. You understand? Well, yeah. Tickets are at Tribby's Shoe Store downtown St. George's, Mitchell's Pharmacy in the Food Fair Complex in Grand Anse, and Art and Soul Bookstore in the Spiceland Mall. Other places, Gippons Pharmacy and so on, tickets will be available there. And from members of the cast and members of the theater company. Let me just, the final thing I want to say is that I want to thank GBN for actually helping us, partnering with us in a certain way to give visibility to this project. I want to thank Core Bank, Grenada Core Bank, has been a major friend of theater and the arts in Grenada. I want to thank especially Jonas Brown and Hubbard, who have also been great in their support and consistently giving support over the years. So thanks to them, and thanks to all other sponsors and our faithful patrons who show up time and time again. And I just want to, we are responding to a request from patrons. They want entertainment. In spite of the COVIDious times, they want entertainment. We want to do it good, and we want to do it safe.
Thanks a lot, Chris, and I'm certain before we get to the 7th, and even after the 7th has come and gone, the other productions pieces, I'm almost certain that you and I will get a chance to sit down, maybe after the first staging, maybe to talk about the others to come. Thanks.
We still have Fedon to do, We still have Julian Fedon to do. Don't forget that,
Oh, yes. Waiting in the wings. Thanks a lot, Chris.
COVID had a one under lockdown.
That one definitely is under lockdown. Thanks a lot, Chris. Chris the Wings there. And, of course, reminding you the first staging of Patient Zero Trade Center. That is that's November the 7th. Limited tickets, seating only for 300 persons, of course, and full COVID protocol in place. It is 6 minutes on to the hour of 12 o'clock, reminding you that, of course, for those of you in television, you go back to regular programming. On radio, the midday edition is up, a production of our News and Current Affairs Department, and will be presented by Beverly Telesford. Peace and love, JC loves you. I'm out of here for now. It's an extended weekend, reminding you, Thanksgiving, that Ecumenical service is set for 3:30 3:30 and you want to be part of it, just give God thanks and praise for your families, as your communities, and a nation. There is, of course, the events of 1983, and then there is COVID-19, and 2020 has been a tumultuous year for us. But we look forward with childlike and gracious anticipation for His bounties and His blessings as you look forward to 2021. Peace and love. JC loves you. I leave you with some of my timeless classic as we get ready for the midday edition at the top of the hour.
Greetings, everyone. I hope this message meets you and yours in the best of health as we join in encouraging all to act responsibly.
COVID-19 presents the most serious
and deadly challenge
any of us will experience in our lifetime.